Hello and welcome to the latest of the SPS seminar series here at the University of York. My name is Peter Hollingsworth and I'm a third year SPS student, and today we're joined by Professor John Street of the University of East Anglia. Just wondering if you could tell us a bit about yourself in a few words.
Yeah, I'm a professor of politics at UEA in Norwich, although I actually do quite a lot that covers the areas of media and popular culture as well as politics. But that's been my kind of abiding interest, I think, the relationship between politics and the world of culture.
And could you tell us a little bit about what you're talking about today?
Yeah, I'm talking about the relationship between popular culture and political engagement. I mean, strictly speaking, I'm only talking about a particular form of popular culture. I'm going to be talking about music. And it's been a kind of ongoing obsession of mine about this, how music and musicians affect the way people act, particularly in relation to politics. And so what I'm trying to do in the talk is trace some of the ways I've researched that problem and also the ways other people have, to try and get somehow closer to understanding how and to what extent politics is affected by music and musicians.
And what genres and types of music or decades of music are you most interested in?
Well, in one sense, I'm kind of interested in the thought that music in all times and all periods and all forms has had some kind of political effect. And what's interesting is why a particular type of music in a particular place has an effect. But I suppose, you're looking at me, you probably can tell that I'm someone whose key cultural experiences occurred in the 1960s and 70s. So there's a sense in which I kind of refer back to those periods as particularly important. As if they were, which of course is debatable. But no, I am interested in the ways in which music functions in societies outside of sort of Western liberal societies. But obviously, that's much where my work has been primarily focused on the US, UK music and its influences.
And you said a little bit about why it's important, but so why is it really important that we look at these things?
I think there is obviously in social and political sciences generally, there's talk about the cultural turn, the idea that in some way or other the traditional forms of social and political explanation have ignored the power and role that culture has played, and there needs to be a greater sensitivity to the ways in which culture impacts on individuals in terms of the way they act and the way they think. And in a sense, this concern of mine reflects that, the thought that, well, if we are going to talk about culture as in somehow mattering to the ways in which human social action takes place, then we need to study it more carefully, and we have to address quite difficult questions about how you produce evidence. It's easy enough to sort of make rhetorical claims for the importance of culture and the importance of music, but how do we actually produce evidence for the fact that, in an era like punk or whatever, that it did actually engage people in politics, it did actually constitute a form of resistance. Actually showing that is hard, and yet I think quite important if you are going to claim culture as mattering to the way the world works. And
is there any sector of society that you think impacts most, young or old, or...?
I think, well, traditionally, of course, it has focused on the young, and some of what I talk about is in relation to young people and their attitudes to music, their uses of music. But I don't think it is an exclusively youth phenomenon. I think this relationship we have with music and the way music interacts on us in the wider society isn't specific to a generation or anything as precise as that. But it probably is. It's more familiarly studied around young people, and is probably more easily observed amongst young people.
And if I could just ask you quickly about one of my interests, is I'm doing my dissertation on Spotify. Right. Do you have any kind of idea of the impact of things like Spotify and streaming are having on your research?
Well, I am, as funny enough, actually working on another project in which I'm looking at the changing nature of copyright and the ways in which new forms of regulating musical distribution is affected by new services like Spotify, and it clearly is a really important factor in the way music is distributed, the way people make a living from it, and the ways in which the music industry itself is being reshaped. I suspect you've got more profound things to say about it than I have, but I'm certainly very interested in the ways in which, as it were, new forms of delivery are changing both, how music circulates and perhaps also how it's used.
Well, that's great. We really look forward to your talk later on.